Later that night, I stared at the sleeping face of Shamisen, who had wrapped himself in a bundle on my bed, while indulging in a sense of warmth. While wondering deeply where that warm feeling came from, I might as well try and figure out where the division between love and lust begins and ends. At that moment, a thought sparked in my head that cried out, "That's it!"
Kyon-kun! Your phone! It's from the same person as yesterday!
My sister once again held the phone receiver and opened the door to my room. After handing the receiver, which was playing some pop music tune, to me, my sister then sat by the bed and began pulling Shamisen's whiskers.
Shami, Shami, Shami so furry. Shami, Shami, Shami so purry.
I looked at my sister looking cheerful, then at Shamisen looking unconcerned, then back to my sister singing away as I placed the receiver by my ear. Hello?
It's me.
Nakagawa, my classmate from junior high, couldn't repress the anxiety within himself and asked straight away,
How'd it go? What did Nagato-san say? Please tell me. No matter what her reply is, I'm already prepared. Hurry up already, Kyon.
Sounds like a candidate struggling for a parliament seat in an election anxious about the latest exit polls. I'm sorry, but things didn't quite go as planned. I waved at my sister, signaling her to get out while trying to sound sorry. She said she won't wait for you. She cannot imagine and cannot guarantee a future 10 years from now. That's her answer. My mouth slickly relayed the facts out.
But I can see him.
I thought deeply how Nakagawa would react to this peculiar sentence from Nagato.
Is that so?
Nakagawa sounded surprisingly calm.
I guessed so as well. She couldn't have agreed so easily.
Hey, is that all you have to say after I had to read such an embarrassing declaration for you? If you knew you were going to fail, then don't ask me to be your messenger.
Everything has to go through certain procedures.
You were the least qualified to lecture me when you yourself have skipped through warming up and jumped straight into proposing.
I know. It must be distressing to receive a love confession from a complete stranger.
If you knew that already, you should have kept quiet in the first place. The only people who would knowingly step onto a landmine are members of the bomb squad or people seeking excitement.
But I thought at least Nagato-san would become more interested in me.
This was pretty much part of Nakagawa's elaborate crime. Nakagawa was indeed the first person that Nagato felt curious about. Such was the devastating power of Nakagawa's background.
That's why, Kyon, I need to ask you for another favor.
What is it this time?
Did you know that I joined the American football team in high school?
Nope. This is my first time hearing it.
Really? That's the thing. Besides this, I don't have any other requests. This time, we'll be having a friendly match with an American football team from another boys' school. Please, do bring Nagato-san along to watch this match. Of course, I'm in the starting lineup.
When's the match?
Tomorrow.
Didn't I say before? Handling just one difficult creature like Haruhi was enough for me. Why must their schedule be so tight all the time?
There's nothing I could do if Nagato-san is not willing to wait 10 years for me. Despite this, I just hope I can move her with my heroics.
Such a conclusive deduction. You should at least consider my position. Even if you don't care about me, you ought to consider how busy the rest of us are going to be for the end of the year.
Is it inconvenient for you?
It's not exactly inconvenient for me. I was as free as a bird tomorrow, and most probably Nagato was as well. So it's not inconvenient at all. At this rate, I'll really be forced to go and see your heroics.
That's great. Do come, though it's a friendly match, it is going to be a duel to the death. The outcome of the match would affect how we spend the new year. If we lose, we will be greeted by a hellish winter vacation. There will be no rest for us, even in the New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Every day besides the regular practice, we'll simply get more practice.
Nakagawa sounded really serious, maybe even tragic. But for me, it's all none of my business. There was a mountain load of troublesome stuff I needed to take care of before the end of the year, and it's only a few days before the Snow Mountain Mansion field trip.
Kyon, it's fine if you're busy. All you need to do is bring Nagato-san over. That's all that I ask of you. If she refuses, then I would truly give up. But as long as there's a 1 to 1,000 chance, I'm willing to take it. If I don't try, a dream would just be a dream.
Yeah, you sure can talk big. Yet my weakness was my inability to say mean stuff. Alright then. I laid on my bed and sighed a breath that somehow never came out. I'll call Nagato later. I have a feeling Nagato won't say no. Where's your high school? If Nagato says okay, then I'll bring her over. Maybe I'll bring someone else as well. It's fine if I bring a few more people, right?
Thank you, Kyon. I'll remember this debt I owe you.
Nakagawa then cheerfully told me how to get to his school, and when the kickoff for the match would begin.
You truly are a natural matchmaker. I'll have to hire you as the host for our wedding. No, I should name my first child after you.
Bye. After a cool farewell, I hung up the phone. If I let Nakagawa continue with his ramblings, I'm afraid holes would be bored out of my head already. I placed the home phone receiver on my bed and picked up my cell phone, trying to look for Nagato's phone number in my address book. And so, the next day came very quickly.
You're too slow! How can the person who made the appointment be last to arrive? Are you sure you even want to go?
Haruhi pointed at me with a smile on her face. The location was in front of the familiar station, which has become the official meeting point of the SOS Brigade. The other three, Nagato, Koizumi, and Asahina-san, were all waiting for me as well. Originally, I had intended to just bring the silent living humanoid interface along, but like I said, it just wasn't possible for the two of us to watch the game alone. No matter how tight a net is, it will always have holes. If the brigade commander were to find out we went without her, God knows what kind of weird punishment she would come up with. Just thinking about it was enough to give me shivers. I might as well drag the others along into this. So after calling Nagato, I proceeded to call the other three. As to why they all agreed, it could be either they just happened to have some free time, or they were simply curious about this guy who fell in love with Nagato at first sight. As it was in the middle of the chilly winter, everyone came wearing thick clothing. Asahina-san's outfit was worth a mention. Wearing that white artificial fur coat, which could either be furry or fluffy, she looked so cute, like an innocent white rabbit. If one were to fall in love at first sight, one's target ought to be Asahina-san instead. As for Nagato, she simply wore a simple hooded coat over her uniform and placed the hood over her head. As expected from the alien-created doll, she is able to resist such freezing Earth temperatures. Though she was about to see the person who had confessed to her, she still remained expressionless.
Alright, let's go. I can't wait to see what this guy looks like. Besides, this is my first time seeing an American football game.
Haruhi wasn't the only one in a good mood as though going to a picnic. Asahina-san was also smiling happily. Koizumi maintained his evil-looking grin, and I looked unexcited, while our main character Nagato carried no expression whatsoever.
I checked the bus routes around the park beforehand. It'll take about half an hour to get from here to that boys' school by bus. We can get on here.
Koizumi led the way, speaking like a tour guide as my words dwindled. As Koizumi walked along, he gradually came close to my side and whispered meaningfully to my ear.
To be honest, you sure do have a lot of extraordinary friends.
I waited for him to continue, yet Koizumi only gave me a grin and went back to his duties as a tour guide. Nakagawa an extraordinary person? Who knows? To feel as though he's struck by lightning just by having one look at Nagato, he must be more extraordinary than the average person in order to have such special senses. Walking to the bus depot, I just felt something was amiss. For some reason, I just couldn't be happy. After riding on the privately operated bus for about half an hour, we walked for a few minutes before arriving at that boys' school. The game had already started. As I had overslept, we had already missed 2 buses, so that by the time we arrived it was already 15 minutes since the game had begun. It didn't seem like we could enter the school grounds, so we walked along the perimeter, and very soon came to a field that was surrounded by a barbed fence. The American-friendly football match had already started.
Wow, such a big school field.
I totally agreed with Asahina-san's awestruck comment. Unlike the North High School field, which is basically a piece of flat land created from leveling a hill, a lot of money seems to have been spent on building this very wide private boys' school sports field. Besides, the place where we were standing was about a story higher than the sports field, giving us a great vantage point. Apart from the 5 of us, there were some old geezers that would occasionally pass by, and plenty of schoolgirls, which I suspect to be fangirls, squeezing their faces on the wire fence, and cheering away in their high-pitched voices for each boy's school. Listening to the smashing sound of the white and blue jerseys and helmets, the five of us found an empty spot where we could stand alongside in a row. Nagato remained speechless and didn't give any reaction. I knew absolutely nothing about American football. I remember after winning our match in the baseball tournament, Haruhi showed us the application posters for the American football and soccer tournaments. In the end, we entered neither tournament. Of course, that was after going through many trials and tribulations. But just to be safe, I still went and looked up the rules. It looked simple, but it was quite complicated. Though it wasn't hard to play, it wasn't a sport in which we could just join in if we felt like it. In fact, just watching the bullfight beyond the fence proved that my choice not to participate was correct. The sound of their protective pads clashing never stopped. Haruhi clung to the barbed fence and looked intently at the players who were now clustered into a group.
So, which one's Nakagawa?
The one with the number 82 on his back, the white team. I said according to the description Nakagawa gave me. Nakagawa was the tight end, in which he is positioned at the side of the offensive team's line, and was responsible for both blocking the defense and catching passes. Although Nakagawa is big, he's also quick and agile.
Huh? Looks like the players could switch positions. Why's that?
Because the players are divided into offensive and defensive teams. Nakagawa is in the offensive team.
They're all wearing helmets, so can they attack using that? How hard can they smash into each other? Can they do judo throws, or can they use any other combat techniques?
They can use neither. There's no such allowance, and they can't use their helmets either.
Huh?
Haruhi looked keenly at the field. There was no American football team in North High. If there was, this girl would definitely try to find a way to sneak in and wreak havoc. Who knows? She might just be able to achieve something using her instantaneous movement and explosive energy.
This is such an exhilarating and enthusiastic sport. It's very suitable for winter.
I listened to Haruhi making her comments while quietly taking a glance at Nagato. She still maintained her empty expression, simply following the ball's movement. To me, she didn't seem to be really paying any particular attention to Nakagawa, but just simply daydreaming. The five of us just stood there and spent some time watching guys from the boys' school smashing into each other.
Would you like some tea?
Asahina-san took a flask and some paper cups out from her bag.
I thought it might be cold, so I prepared some warm drinks.
The smiling Asahina-san was like an angel. I'm so grateful. It really was getting a bit chilly standing still while watching the game. And so, we sipped on the excellent tea which was brewed by Asahina-san herself, and watched the American footballers playing exuberantly in the middle of the chilly breeze. Just as we were immersed in enjoying our tea while watching the game, the second quarter ended and the halftime break began. Dressed in white, Nakagawa's team gathered at the opposite end of the field. There stood a muscular man that seemed to be the coach, yelling loudly at them. Though he couldn't see clearly, we could make out someone wearing a number 82 jersey amongst the team. As for the match itself, if you really want my opinion, I thought it looked pretty dull. There were no elegant long passes, or running backs dashing for 30 yards across the length of the pitch. Both sides have managed to secure their first downs, and both sides have scored regularly so that the score was still pretty much level, with neither side managing to claim a decent advantage over their opponent. However, I so happen to know someone who hates things that were dull and boring, and her name is Haruhi Suzumiya.
I don't think there's any meaning to this at all.
Standing in the same spot, Haruhi began to mumble. She wasn't alone in breathing out white vapor, as we were all doing the same.
Those players are better off. At least they get to run around.
Haruhi said while wrapping herself with her arms to stay warm.
But it's just too cold for us who are just standing still. Is there a coffee shop nearby?
The picnic mood seemed to have been blown away by the chilly wind, since Asahina-san's warm tea wasn't served ad infinitum, and so we had run out of it quite some time ago now. Even before then, half of Asahina-san's trademark warm tea of love had already been cooled down due to the cold wind, and so didn't do much to help keep the body warm. Not to mention that today saw the arrival of the first wave of a cold front since winter began. Haruhi wasn't the only one shivering due to the cold. Both Asahina-san and myself were frozen stiff as well. Nagato was probably the only person who didn't feel cold, as she feared neither hot nor cold.
As expected, one can't experience any fun if they're just a spectator. Maybe I should join in and have some fun. I think I could be in charge of throwing the ball.
Haruhi's bell-sized eyes were now squinted into thin lines thanks to the body temperature snatching winds.
Seriously, I'll freeze to death if I stop moving. Kyon, did you bring any good stuff, like a thermal bag?
If I had brought that, you think I wouldn't have used it already? If you must warm yourself up, why don't you do a marathon around the school or do some push-ups? It's economical and healthy at the same time.
Fine, since I already have a thermal bag here anyway, and it's a large one as well.
Haruhi slowly wrapped her arms from behind Asahina-san and held her tiny little neck that looked so fragile as though it was about to break off.
What are you doing?
Mikuru-chan, you sure are warm. And soft as well.
Burying her chin under the snow-like artificial fur on Asahina-san's coat, Haruhi glued herself to the back of Asahina-san and hugged the tiny figure of the upperclassman, which was well endowed in one area.
Just let me be here for a while. Kyon, you feeling envious?
Of course I am. If I want to hug something so soft and warm, I might as well hug from the front. Haruhi gave a jestful look.
Does that mean...
She seemed to want to say something, but then shut her mouth, and slowly inhaled softly.
You want to do that to Mikuru-chan?
I looked at Haruhi's mischievous face, and the wide-eyed face of Asahina-san, who was being wrapped tightly in Haruhi's iron grip. I began to think of an appropriate answer. As I was becoming preoccupied with endless thoughts, my lifeline arrived from behind.
If you guys don't mind, we could always hug one another.
Perhaps wanting to join in our discussion, Koizumi carried a vulgar-looking smile and gave his gross suggestion.
Though running a marathon is fine, I really don't mind having two guys hugging each other, just to stay warm, you know.
But I do. I took a glance at the other side. That's not important. The important person present, Nagato, remained silent as ever, and simply looked at the field intently. She didn't even move a muscle. It felt as though her eyes were going after Nakagawa, but even I wasn't sure whether her gaze was focused on him. On the other hand, Nakagawa was the same. As part of the offensive team, whether he was active on the field or resting on the sidelines, he never once looked over to this side. I went through so much trouble to bring Nagato here, and he ignores us completely. Even now, during the halftime intermission, he gathered with the other players in a circle discussing strategy. Has his passion for this game and his desire to win surpassed his pursuit of love? Or maybe he's doing this on purpose. If what Nakagawa said was true, if he even takes one glance at Nagato, then he would quickly lose himself. I still think he was exaggerating things, but if he's telling the truth, then it'll definitely be bad for his game. Whatever. I mumbled and looked at the back of Nagato's head, whose short hair fluttered in the wind. I guess I'll wait till after this match when Nakagawa comes out of his school for him to meet Nagato. At this rate, if the second half goes smoothly and Nakagawa's team wins, then he'll be free as a bird. Unfortunately, things never quite go as one would expect. It was less than 5 minutes into the third quarter after the whistle signaling the resumption of the match when Nakagawa was hauled off in an ambulance.